Welcome back, YouTubers, to another NXT review with me, Mr. Parkin, on behalf of the British Fist. We are now 2 weeks away from the NXT TakeOver special event on the WWE Network, the 2-hour live special that's going to be happening on May the 29th. And we got a little bit of build towards that, and now we know some of the bigger matches that are going to be happening on that show. And most importantly, the NXT Championship match, as that was the main event that was advertised for this show that was kind of continued on from the Battle Royal we had last week. If you have any questions or any comments or anything on NXT or regarding NXT TakeOver, let me know down in the comment section below, please. So to open this week's edition of NXT, we have the Ascension facing yet 2 more jobbers, and you've guessed it, defeated 2 more jobbers. You know, now it's starting to get to the point where the crowd are kind of turning the Ascension babyface right now. They're getting behind the Ascension. There's a reason for this, is because you never really gave them compelling baby faces that are legit threats to actually go up against them. So instead of cheering for some jobbers who they know are going to make a single appearance and then probably go off into the sunset, they're instead now, you know, getting behind the Ascension in any way they really possibly can. So you're taking this heel tag team, or that could be a very dominant heel tag team that you're trying to class as a dominant heel tag team, and now the crowd are turning them babyface because you haven't really given them any legit opponents yet. But I must admit, hearing these guys speak was kind of weird, because we never really hear the Ascension actually speak. And they said that, you know, stating the obvious, they want to face some new tag teams. They want some new challenge. And then you get this kind of awkward moment where El Local and Kalisto came out and challenged them to a match which is going to be happening at NXT TakeOver. I guess to me it just felt kind of awkward because, you know, the crowd were just, they weren't really cheering for the supposed babyface tag team. You know, it just, to me, I mean, it's good that they're facing a new tag team. Don't get me wrong. El Local and Kalisto versus the, you know, the Ascension could be a somewhat decent match at NXT TakeOver. But the whole way this was set up, just we challenge you. Oh, now it's all of a sudden an NXT Championship match at NXT TakeOver, was just a kind of odd and felt just a little bit awkward because they haven't really been big. One match. You know, how's that really building them up to face the dominant tag team champions? I don't know, but at least it's someone new for the Ascension to face at this special, you know, special live event they're doing, NXT TakeOver. Even though, really, I was hoping for the Usos, a champions versus champions match at NXT TakeOver. That would have been a good marquee match, in my opinion, but it doesn't look like we'll be getting it. Thank you, NXT, for giving us a new backstage interviewer, Veronica Lee. Thank you so much, because Devin was freaking horrible as a backstage interviewer. So we had our first semi-final match in the Women's Championship Tournament, and it was Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte. And I think the best way of me really describing this match was it was pretty much an easy formality win for Charlotte. And, you know, that's kind of how it came off, and it kind of seemed like that's how NXT really booked it. You know, you've got Charlotte, who is one of the favourites with Natalya, in my opinion, to actually win that Women's Championship Tournament. And then Alexa Bliss is like, she's pretty much like a baby-faced outsider. And they were kind of booking this in a way so Charlotte would go on, yet they would book Alexa Bliss to, you know, to look like she could, you know, she was doing her best and she was showing heart. And that's one of the ways you kind of get a new babyface over. I imagine Alexa Bliss is a diva that they'll probably want to feature a little bit and, you know, get a little bit more of a character and hopefully personality out there as this new babyface on the scene in the NXT Divas division, especially seeing as Paige and Emma have, you know, pretty much left the division. It's now time for some new NXT babyfaces. I hope Bayley will be one of them that they actually showcase. So the final of the NXT Women's Championship Tournament will definitely feature Charlotte now. So we know the first person in there. My guess next week between Sasha Banks and Natalya is it's going to be Natalya winning that match. You know, that's pretty much how I see it. Although I think they could tell a hell of a story here and do something very interesting with the BFFs if they have Sasha Banks win that match and then have Sasha Banks versus Charlotte to see who the leader of the BFFs are. And you could even use that opportunity to maybe turn Sasha Banks babyface. Really can't see Charlotte being a babyface on NXT. I really can't. But at least we've got, you know, we now know one person, and next week we'll know the next person to the Women's Championship match, or the NXT Women's Championship match at NXT TakeOver. I guess the one thing that really bugs me about NXT, and I just want to briefly touch on it here, is that I have no idea why more guys don't get in-ring promo time on NXT. I mean, on a show that is wrestling heavy, it would really help to break up the monotony with a promo every now and then. I mean, they don't necessarily need one to open the show, maybe in the middle of a show they can just have a promo segment as a way to continue on a feud. You know, I don't know whether the talent backstage just aren't ready for, you know, scripted promos or anything in the ring yet. I don't know, but it would just help the show sometimes when there's lots of wrestling on there to have someone, maybe two wrestlers in the ring cutting promos on each other. It would just help the monotony of the show a little bit. You know, I'm quite thankful for NXT when they do these backstage segments, especially the one with Tyler Breeze. And when he was talking, I was just like, man, why can't they put this inside the damn ring on the show? You know, I was really surprised when I saw the next match on NXT was going to be Mojo Rawley versus Aiden English, because, you know, these guys have only really just started feuding, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to get Mojo Rawley and Aiden English in some kind of program and build the program to NXT TakeOver where they could have a little bit more time than they got on this show to have a decent match and maybe end the feud there. But what do NXT do? You know, firstly, they put them in a match only a week after they've actually started feuding, and they've not really built the feud all that much. And then they go and have Mojo Rawley win. So this feud lasted, what, a week or two? And already the babyface has won? That's kind of pointless, really, isn't it, NXT? I understand you want to put Mojo Rawley over strong. I understand you want to try and build Mojo Rawley up. But look at what you've done with people like Sheamus and John Cena and plenty of other babyfaces you've tried to shove down people's throats. You know, at some point in time, you're going to have to make a Mojo Rawley at least look vulnerable. And against an Aiden English, who is a credible mid-card heel on NXT, it would have been a good chance to at least try and get some heat on Aiden English, and then maybe at NXT TakeOver, you have Mojo Rawley win in a 7 or 8 minute match while overcoming the odds of the greatest singer we've ever seen in the WWE. Apart from maybe Chris Jericho, but he doesn't sing on the WWE and he's not part of the WWE anymore. I just thought the whole way this feud has been done, I just think it's kind of stupid, really, in my opinion. That's just me. So we had Angelo Dawkins versus Colin Cassidy in a, I guess the best way to put it, a random ass match on NXT. You know, it was good to see Angelo Dawkins. I said a couple of weeks ago, I'd love to see more of the guy on NXT. I'd love to see him express his personality and character a little bit more. They gave him a little bit of an opportunity to do it here, even if it wasn't much, as he, you know, put up a decent fight, actually, against Colin Cassidy. So, you know, I got to see Angelo Dawkins. I got to see Colin Cassidy. Again, I can't wait till Enzo Amore comes back because he's incredibly entertaining. CJ Parker, you know, I hated this gimmick when he was trying to be shoved as a babyface, but it's funny how when they try and make this like overbearing environmentalist gimmick heel, all of a sudden it becomes more entertaining. I'm not saying what he did here was incredibly entertaining, but you had CJ Parker go out in the crowd with no extra toxins and the sign, that sign, because it kind of spells NXT. Now, I thought that was kind of good how they did that. And then he turned over the sign and said, "This sign is recyclable." You know, again, this whole overbearing environmentalist character, I think is getting over, really. I do, because no one really likes someone like that. No one really likes someone who's too goody two-shoes. You know, people like a guy with a bit of an edge. People like a guy who maybe doesn't do everything right in their life. Hell, it may understand why a lot of people probably don't like me. I don't know. But, you know, this whole thing here, my only issue with it was there was no real interaction between the two. You just had CJ Parker go out there, kind of interfere in the match, you know, with his sign, not really do anything to affect the match, and there's no interaction between the two. Again, it would have been a good opportunity to build some kind of storyline between the two, unless this is the start and they just didn't want to do too much in this segment and save it, you know, for another time. I don't know. You thought this week's main event had big repercussions on NXT. Well, it just so turns out that next week's main event is going to have even bigger repercussions on the NXT universe. Bo Dallas will face Big E next week. If Bo Dallas wins, he gets a title shot. And if Bo Dallas loses, he is gone from NXT and in brackets upwards to the main roster. They didn't really make that bit very clear. But, you know, again, it's a good way of using Bo Dallas moving to the main roster and getting people to believe and changing it into some kind of semi-exciting match stipulation, which, you know, will get the fans on their feet and, you know, going, wave, goodbye, and all that kind of American stuff. So that match next week should, if nothing more, be quite entertaining. Are you a believer yet? I must admit, I'm not quite yet, but maybe Bo will make me believe down the line. So this week we were going to find out who our #1 contender was going to be to face Adrian Neville at NXT TakeOver for the NXT Championship between Sami Zayn, Tyson Kidd, and Tyler Breeze. This all kind of panned out from what happened last week with the Battle Royal when they all went down to the floor and hit the floor at the same time. And this is the match that Triple H sanctioned, of course, to get a #1 contender. A couple of people in the comment section said a fatal 4-way elimination match would have been pretty good at the NXT TakeOver event. I agree, but I think having main events of single matches are just a lot more easier to book, and I think they're just a lot better in general. It's why, generally speaking, you get one-on-one matches at WrestleMania and not fatal 4-ways, which is just much more complex to book and really, you know, sometimes don't come across well as main events. So I wasn't really high on the idea of having a 4-way, which is why I didn't really mind too much, you know, this triple threat. I did also like how throughout the night they gave them their own little individual stories, you know, going into this match. You had, you know, Tyler Breeze just wants to be gorgeous. He just wants a gorgeous NXT champion. That kind of goes with his character. That's fine. Tyson Kidd says he's seeing his opportunity in NXT. You've got guys like the Wyatts, the Shield, Big E, running riot, Cesaro running riot in WWE, and they came through NXT, and he sees NXT as the launch pin for a chance like that. Sami Zayn is obsessed with getting what he wants, and what he wants is the NXT Championship, which he's never been able to get and has fallen over that hurdle so many times. In brackets, a great way to book a babyface. Really, isn't it? And this match itself was pretty good. I mean, it got 10+ minutes, which, you know, is pretty good for a main event, and it finished about 5 minutes, you know, to the end of the show, which was usually it finishes about 10 or so minutes before the show. But Tyson Kidd comes out with the win. He gets the opportunistic win, and I like the little touch there. You had, you know, Tyson Kidd pin Tyler Breeze, and you had Sami Zayn, you know, that close to breaking up the pin. You saw the look on Sami Zayn as he was distraught. And you know, I like it when they do that. You know, it really brings emotions involved. It really helps develop their characters and stuff like that. So Tyson Kidd is now our new #1 contender for the NXT Championship. Dare I say, told you? You know, I mean, I said that they were probably going to do something big with Tyson Kidd, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was going to be facing Adrian Neville a couple of weeks back. I mean, he beat Mason Ryan, you know, and he beat Bo Dallas as well. So they kind of built him up to this point. So it wasn't surprising to me that Tyson Kidd actually won this match, especially with Sami Zayn's story being that he's obsessed with getting what he wants. You know, he's always going to get an opportunity later on, in my opinion. Tyson Kidd versus Adrian Neville at NXT TakeOver should be one hell of a match, even though it's between two baby faces. You know, it should hopefully be one of the matches where the crowd loves both of them, so they'll go absolutely mental, rather than, you know, we need conventional heel versus babyface match. So that should be one hell of a match for the NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver, in my opinion. And that is going to be our main event. And I'm pretty much sold on that main event. It's going to be, you know, rookie Adrian Neville, well, not really a rookie, but rookie in WWE terms, versus Tyson Kidd, who is like the linchpin of NXT right now in terms of, like, you know, the veteran that is trying to make his name there. So that tells a nice story in its own way. The best way I can describe this show is there was some bad and there was some good. So it kind of meets in the middle of being the middle of the road show, in my opinion. You know, the main event I thought was pretty good, and we finally have some matches set in stone in terms of our title matches for NXT TakeOver. Doesn't really look anywhere near as good as the first NXT event they did, you know, NXT Arrival, but Tyson Kidd versus Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship should be pretty good. We know we're going to be getting most likely Natalya versus Charlotte, a match we've seen a couple of times now for the NXT Women's Championship, and Kalisto and El Local versus Ascension for the NXT Tag Team Championships. You know, I could kind of take or leave that, really, to be honest. The babyface tag team haven't really been built up enough, really, in my opinion. I do wonder, though, what other matches we're going to be getting. I mean, we've got, I'd take our 3 feature matches of that show. What other matches are we going to get in there to fill the time? You know, that's what I'm interested in now. Hopefully in the next next week, they will actually announce and give us some stuff, other stuff that we will be getting, you know, on the show. I mean, for NXT Arrival, they announced 3 matches. But I don't really think the 3 matches they've announced, you know, on this show, or the matches they will soon to announce going into NXT TakeOver, are really good enough to really sell me, you know, completely on the show as much as it did NXT Arrival. The main event sells me on the show pretty much alone. But I want to see some other stuff in there. I want to see some storylines. I want to see some grudge matches in there somewhere. Will we get that? You know, maybe Sami Zayn will face Corey Graves, you know. Maybe we'll get some other stuff on there. I don't know. But I'm hoping that NXT give us at least, you know, something viable. If you have any thoughts on this week's edition of NXT or NXT TakeOver, let me know down in the comment section below. See you same time next week. Goodbye.